Hey guys, welcome to the Billion Dollar Banker podcast. We are excited to be here with you today, and thank you for taking the time to listen. Before we get started, we want to remind you that we are always looking for new guests to come join us on the show, and we have an amazing roster of professionals getting ready to join us here at the studio. You're going to be learning so many things about real estate, finance, law, entrepreneurship, and just little tips and tricks on how to succeed in life, in a particular industry, and beyond. See, our mission is to inspire, motivate, and help all of our listeners out there achieve their dreams. So I hope you enjoy and you comment and subscribe, turn on all those notifications, and make sure that we're able to stay in touch with each other. When we're here with you, we feel like we're talking directly to you. We feel like you're part of our family, and we want to make sure that our message is important. If there's something that you're looking to hear more about, or some information or topic that you're really interested in, let us know. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the things that you've probably been hearing a lot if you're in the real estate community, if you're a realtor, or if you're an attorney, and it's the NRA settlement. We're going to talk about some of the milestones and then also cover some of the resources that are really critical for you to understand as you move into this new journey and this new kind of regulatory environment for realtors. So we're going to take a look at the estimated timeline of the key upcoming milestones here on the screen. It's definitely something that we want to make sure that everyone understands as clearly as possible. And realtors, I'm sure your brokers are doing trainings on this like crazy, but if they're not, and if you're kind of missing out on some of this information, I hope this can help you. So let's go through the timeline here real quick. On March 15th, the NRA settlement agreement was signed. You can see that right here. Shortly after, on March 22nd, the NRA files a notice of settlement withdrawals pending motions and seeks to stay litigation. On April 19th, plaintiffs filed a motion for preliminary approval. On April 23rd, the decision on preliminary approval was made. And then we flash forward to June 18th, which is the deadline for realtors and MLS to execute the Appendix B order to be included as release party. The deadline for brokers to execute the Appendix C to be included and release party. And the deadline for non-realtor MLS to exclude Appendix D. So, we're approaching the deadline today as we're shooting. It's June 13th. And this hopefully will be out to you before the 18th, but we do have some upcoming important timelines. In late July, the NAR is to implement the practice changes. So August 17th to follow that is the earliest date for plaintiffs to issue a class notice. But we're going to be looking at, in July and August, this is going to start to get implemented and the NMLS is going to get updated. And we're going to start to see some of these changes actually really hit our market. I know a lot of realtors right now are implementing these changes and coming up with different strategies. And if you're an agent that has something interesting to share, we have a few coming on, a few brokers that are going to be talking about how they're positioning themselves in this market. And there's some really interesting and creative ways that I see agents and brokerages already starting to navigate these changes. So I'm optimistic that this is going to be something that we end up using as a tool in some way. We saw recently that Fannie, Freddie, and FHA, and now VA allowing for concessions, sellers' concessions to contribute towards buyer commissions, which is huge. And also, there are other ways creatively from a financing perspective that we can help out, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. On September 16th, the Realtor MLS and opting in non-Realtor MLS and brokerage implement practice changes by this date. So that's the deadline. We anticipate motion in support of final approval in September as well. And then November 26th, we'll be hearing for final approval. So I think there's no secret, right? As a mortgage professional that's been doing mortgages for over 15 years now, there's no way I would buy a home without using a real estate agent. And if you're a buyer out there that's maybe considering not using one, or if you're a realtor that wants to kind of help your buyers navigate whether or not it's appropriate to use your services or not, here is a great list of 111 to-dos that you're going to need to get ready before you buy your home. So I wish we could go through all of these, but we will go through some. And you can kind of get an idea of just how much goes into these 111 different items that as a buyer, you're going to need to be prepared to understand and go through if you're looking to purchase. So realtors, if you don't have this and you'd like a copy of this, I can certainly send it to you. Just leave your email address below or shoot us a DM or message us or reach out to us. You can get our website and our other social links. So many ways to get in touch. We'd be happy to send this to you. So, first you want to get informed, right? All the information your realtors know are things that they've taken years and a lot of research to make sure that they're aware of. So you want to research the real estate industry and legal services to understand what's available to you, including the entire process and necessities for legal representation. Number 2, you want to achieve proficiency in federal and state fair housing laws that protect your rights. You want to be sure that you're not being denied the opportunity to make an offer on a home or secure financing based on your race, religion, national origin, sex, disability, and familial status. You want to research local and national down payment assistance resources. These programs can help you make your home purchase more affordable. Many times, obviously, these are things that realtors help you with. Check your eligibility for down payment assistance programs. If you're a veteran, research home services and loan programs that are available to you. If you're a veteran, determine whether you qualify for a 0 down payment VA home loan. Making a down payment is a significant hurdle for many home buyers, and programs like these can help open the door to home ownership. You're going to learn about local home prices, inventory levels, and market demand in your desired areas. If you are in a hotter market and high demands for homes could be, kind of impacting your ability to get your offer accepted. So you're going to want to kind of strategize on how to present your offer most effectively. You want to ensure that all personal and financial information remains confidential to mitigate risk of identity theft. And you want to make sure you do a lot of research on the steps that can take to protect that identity theft during your home purchase. Throughout the process, you want to know the risk of posting home search details on social media to avoid being targeted for fraud. Do some research on what home features are currently popular to help identify your preferences and how this may affect the value of your home. Setting up a budget is another thing that's really critical here, right? Obtain a copy of your credit report, including your credit score, assessing where you stand, ensuring that you have the time to dispute errors and improve your score. So this list goes on and on. Assessing your desired market, making sure you understand how to pull comparables, professionals that can advocate for yourself throughout the entire process. To do that, you should promote and defend your interests. If you don't have someone that's representing you, starting your home search. This is a big one. Finding the properties as they come to market, scouting listings and the online marketplace for suitable properties, setting up real-time alerts on home search marketplaces so that you make sure you get notified and you're aware right when the property comes to market, because homes are moving extremely quickly. And we're going to learn today in specific county today, how quickly homes are actually moving off the market. You're going to want to contact homeowners in desired areas to see if they're maybe considering selling. A lot of times what real estate agents will do is if there's not inventory, they're going to go try to make it. So if you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a particular town, what they'll do is they'll farm that market and they'll make sure they reach out with postcards, with mailers, with phone calls, with door knocks, with events to see if they could get some of those homes on the market and explain that they have a buyer that's interested. You want to explore all available resources to learn about the prospective neighborhoods, right? You want to understand that the local experts and everything you need to know about a neighborhood before you move in, the amenities, the schools, certain points of interest, etc. So, then it goes over here to negotiating and accepting, an offer and getting it accepted. So this is a really big piece of what real estate agents do. And you can see here, there's probably about 10 or 15 different items that are listed. So the topics that are covered here, if you're looking to buy a home, is, making your offer, setting your budget, starting your home search, negotiating your offer. And then, you have your financing, right? Getting your financing in place. Then you have facilitating your closing, which there's a lot of parties involved with facilitating the closing and a lot of steps, as you can see there. And then you have post-closing activities as well to make sure that you kind of go through this process as best as possible. So look, here's the point. When you look at these 111 things to do, there's no one better qualified to represent you and your interests when buying a home than a professional buyer's agent. And so agents are going to start to talk to you about signing agreements to work with them because they work for you. and they represent your interest in negotiations with sellers and agents across the board, and probably the biggest financial decision most of us are making in our lifetime. So just, think about that. There are certain things that you want to make sure that you negotiate in life. Like, if you're looking to purchase something, you might just want to just click on Amazon and hit buy. You might want to spend some time and look around and compare prices, right? Or compare options, make sure that the reviews are good and that you're buying the right product. Or, maybe you want to make something yourself and DIY it instead of having someone else do it for you. But when it comes to big decisions like, renovating your entire home or, selecting the right doctor or attorney or realtor in this instance, you want to make sure that it's worth the cost, because it saves you money in the long term on some of the mistakes that you can make. So, this is about making sure that your interests are represented in negotiations with sellers and to make sure that you understand everything there is that is involved in purchasing a home. Is it any surprise that nearly 9 out of 10 home buyers say they would use a buyer's agent when purchasing a home again? So this list is amazing. You can send it to anyone that you'd like as you start to have these conversations, and it's something to really, keep in mind as time goes along. Something else we have here that we wanted to show you, which is a great FAQ for real estate agents. If you haven't seen this, I could certainly send you out the link here. But these are the NAR settlement FAQs, and we're going to go through some of them today because it's important to kind of understand what's going on. What are these changes? So, why did the NRA enter into this settlement? This is what buyers and sellers are asking realtors now. So you need to know how to answer this the best of your ability, right? So from the beginning of this litigation, there were 2 goals. One was to secure a release of liability for as many of our members in the association as possible. This is coming directly from the NAR. And also preserve the choice of consumers that they have regarding the real estate services and compensation. The proposed settlement achieves both of those goals and provides a path for realtors to move forward and continue their work to preserve, protect, and advance the right to real property for everyone. So the key terms of the agreement are really important. There's a release of liability, and this is an agreement. The agreement would release NAR over 1 million NAR members and local realtor associations and realtors and all brokerages with an NAR member as principal whose residential transaction volume is in 2022 was $2 billion or below from liability for the types of claims brought in these cases on behalf of home sellers related to the broker commission. So they are protected. If you're under that $2 billion mark, the NAR kind of fought for to include all members in the release and was able to ensure more than 1 million members were included in that. Compensation offers moved off the NMLS. NMLS is for mortgage professionals, but the compensation offers have been moved off the MLS. So NAR has agreed to put in place a new rule prohibiting offers of compensation on MLS. So that's the big change here that we're seeing. Offers of compensation could continue to be an option to consumers, and agents can still be paid through the sale of the home, but it cannot be advertised. And as we talked about earlier, this change goes into effect on August 17th of 2024, so just a couple months away. A written agreement for MLS participants acting for buyers. So this is the next component here. While the NAR has been advocating for the use of written agreements for years, in this settlement, we have agreed to require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into a written agreement with their buyers before touring a home. And again, this change will go into effect on August 17th. So it goes into some detail on what touring a home means. And I think it's important to understand that as agents. So at what point am I going to give this written agreement to a buyer? Well, it has to be, as it states here, with their buyers before touring a home, right? Settlement payment, the NAR obviously settled for $418 million over an approximate 4-year period of time. We understand that. And as we all know, the NAR continues to deny any wrongdoing here. But these questions are great. Does the settlement mean that the NAR has admitted any wrongdoing? It answers those questions. It answers who is covered. It also talks about, again, what touring a home means. So here's what's changed on the MLS. As agents, if you want to send this to your buyers, or to your sellers, this could really help. We talked about the effective dates of the change, and we spoke about when that's going to be updated, which is August 17th. So many of you may be wondering, or your buyers may be wondering, how will buyer brokers get paid now? And offers of compensation will continue to be an option that consumers can pursue off MLS through negotiation and consultation with real estate professionals. The types of compensation that's still available for buyers, brokers, would continue to take multiple forms, including but not limited to the following: fixed fee commission paid directly by consumers, concession from a seller. And a concession means that the seller has accepted an offer and agrees to cut back a certain amount of the money. Portions of the listing broker compensation. So the listing broker could say, hey, I'll share in my commission with you. And compensation would continue to be negotiable and should always be negotiated between agents and the consumer they represent. One of the things we wanted to talk about today, too, is how financing can help with this. So we have a product called Buy by MI. And that product means that you can put down 15% without any mortgage insurance. So let's say you have a client that wants to put down 20% because they want to avoid mortgage insurance, but they also want to make sure that you get paid too. And if they put down 20%, they just don't have enough to make up the difference. Well, we have a product where we can help them put down 5% less, which will allow them to have that extra money that they need to pay you for your buyer's commission. So that's a way that kind of financing can play a role in this process. Obviously, as we know here, the MLS will not have a compensation field. So the new policies are going to completely prohibit that. We're going to move down to now the written buyer agreements here. So one of the things that it talks about is you can sign this agreement when you're at the stage of being ready to tour a home. So written buyer agreements are required before a buyer tours a home. So what does it mean to tour a home? It's really important as realtors that you understand this. So touring a home means when the buyer and or the MLS participant or other agent at the direction of the MLS participant working with the buyer enter the house. Here's the important part. This includes when the MLS participant or other agent at the direction of the MLS participant working with the buyer enters the home to provide a live virtual tour to a buyer not physically presented. A home means a residential property consisting of not less than 1 nor more than 4 residential units. So it looks like here, based on these FAQs, that the home tour could be live or virtual. So that's an important thing to understand. Here on question 70 here, it's talking about in the buyer agreement, can buyers and buyers brokers agree to a range of compensation? NRA policy will not dictate the compensation agreed between buyers and buyers brokers. It could be a dollar amount, a flat fee, a percentage, or an hourly rate. That's up to you and the agent to negotiate. Under the settlement, any compensation agreed to must be objectively ascertainable and not open-ended. And for example, the range cannot be a buyer broker compensation shall be whatever amount the seller is going to offer the buyer. It can't be vague and open-ended. So here's an interesting one on 61. Are written buyer agreements required when listing agents talk with a buyer on behalf of a seller only or as sub-agents of the seller? No, an agreement is not required because the participant is performing work for the seller, not the buyer. So important to note. Okay, here's another interesting one. So while the MLS cannot list a buyer's compensation fee, what it can do is it can list a seller's concession field that indicates whether a seller is offering any concessions. So it is a matter of local discretion, which may depend on an MLS technological capabilities and what an MLS deems to be in the interest of its market. But check your local MLS and see if you're able to list a concession on there. So you could put something like the seller is willing to offer a concession. Is an MLS required to have a seller's concession field? It's not. So maybe your MLS doesn't have one and another one does. In that instance, I'm not sure if you're able to put it in the notes, but that could be something to talk to your broker about. If you do put on the MLS that your seller is willing to put on a seller's concession, it says here that usually they aren't binding until they are established in an executed contract. So it doesn't bind them to that requirement per the answer here in the FAQs. All right, guys. So here's what's really important too. If you want a copy of this, I can send this to you. But here are the type of loans with max seller contributions, because it's important to note that Fannie and Freddie said that they're not going to have the seller's concession. If a portion of the seller's concession is contributed to the buyer's agent compensation, it's not going to impact or be calculated into the maximum amount allowed by conventional FHA, VA, or USDA financing. So I'll go through this example to make it a little bit clearer. Let's say here that you are seeking a conventional loan on a primary or second home. It shows you here that if your down payment is between 3 and 10%, the max seller contribution is 3%. Now, if in addition to that 3%, if the seller wanted to offer another 2% in concession for a total of 5, 2 that would go to the buyer compensation and 3 that would go towards the seller contribution towards cost, that's okay. You could see here on conventional financing, if you're putting down between 10 and 25%, you can do a 6% max seller contribution. And if you're putting down as much as 25%, you could do a 9% seller contribution. What this means, home buyers, is that the seller can cut back these percentages right here based upon how much you're putting down towards your closing cost. If it's an investment property and you're putting down 15% or more, it's 2%. If it's an FHA loan and you're putting down 3.5%, you could go up to a 6% seller's concession to cover your cost. VA, 4%, and USDA, 6%. So really important for realtors to understand what the max seller contribution is. And just so you know, these seller contributions can be used for way more than just closing costs. It could be used to buy down rate temporarily, or it could be used to buy down rate permanently. In one of our other episodes you can check out, we cover what's called a temporary buy down, where the seller contributes a portion of the proceeds in the amount of a concession, and that concession is used to buy down the rate for either 1, 2, or 3 years so that the buyer gets all of their savings. We went through live examples, purchase prices, and savings, and it's absolutely insane how much you can save on a yearly, annual, and monthly basis if you get a concession to buy down your rate temporarily. So if you want to check out more on the temporary buy down, go to our library within our podcast here and check out the temp buy down episode. All right, guys. Well, that's it for NAR settlement. If you have questions or you want to know more about what's available, please just reach out to us. You could call us, DM us, follow us, subscribe here, turn on the notifications. Let us know if you're interested in coming on the $1 Billion Banker podcast. We're going to have some great guests coming up, as I said, and we are always looking forward to meeting new ones. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and we'd be happy to get back to you as soon as we can. Talk soon.